You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into our last discussion of the day. Maintaining good mental health is important for emotional well-being. It also affects your physical health. But stress can manifest as physical problems can in turn impact negatively on the mental health of anyone. Managing stress can greatly improve mental health and help overcome mental illness. Yeah, I have in the studio to discuss this mental health advocate and founder across all initiative for mental health and stigma eradication, Seun Dosumu. Seun, it's good to have you join me this morning.
Great to have me. I'm excited to be part of this conversation.
Welcome back in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Now, we've talked about this sometime, I remember, sometime way back ago. When it comes to the state of health, of mental health, a lot of people, maybe in this part of the world, whenever you mention mental health, it is the person roaming the streets, without either clothes or, doing some kind of things that everyone has in mind. But we understand from our engagement with people like you and others that is not just a thing. Yeah. Everybody can have a state of mental health that may not be healthy. But talk to us about that.
So I'm glad that the conversations are spinning over the years. People are beginning to realize that it's not just people on the street that are displaying very absurd behaviors. We are beginning to even realize that it's more, mental health is even more common, amongst busy professionals. People who, have to play diverse roles, from being a wife to being a CEO to being a church leader, and then having to deal with your finance and all of that. We are beginning to see that those roles can can have an effect on our mental health. And I'm glad that mental health is becoming popular by the day, because if we genuinely want to make headway and see to people becoming more productive, we need to talk about their mental health.
So on a daily basis, how should people be conscious of their mental health?
So as it is, we have more people who are more whose lifestyles are even more threatens their mental health, and we have other people who, by the virtue of their role or finance, they are more comfortable and okay with. But as it is, if you know that you leave your house pretty early, if you know you have a toxic partner, you have a toxic boss, you have so many reports to send in the office, and then you still need to go back home, look for money to pay for your house rent and school fees, then you are potentially going to be stressed and have issues with your mental health. So if you are in this, and I think this is a typical Nigeria, having to deal with the basics, especially working so hard to take care of the basics, which is a very serious issue.
People talk about the issue of emotional intelligence. You just mentioned having a toxic partner, or or a boss or colleagues in the office or wherever you find yourself, and all of that. What is the place of emotional intelligence in all of those?
You can't overemphasize the importance of emotional intelligence, because it aids you in understanding how to relate with individuals around you. There are many people who put up a front. In fact, a lot of people put up a front, because you can't go to the office always looking devastated, always looking sad, and not wanting to play a role. When in the real sense, if you had the opportunity to embark on a 3 months leave with pay, you would gleefully embrace that. But it's not like that in many workplaces, and even everywhere. So you have to find a balance. So the truth is that people, when you are emotionally intelligent, you become a lifesaver. You become that glimpse of hope to anyone who is battling emotional distress, who is experiencing trauma, maybe at work or at home, or someone who has been abused. And there are many of these people who suffer abuse in the office, go back home to a traumatic and troublesome partner. All of this
What are the early signs that one should look out for that will give you signs that all is not well with your mental health?
You talked about stress. Stress is very common amongst everyone, and we need to pay attention to the adverse effect of stress, from waking up early to work, to having to deal with many tasks, having to find solutions to issues, projections, strategy meetings, and then all of this can drain you emotionally and then physically. Some people have to drive hours in Lagos, too many construction works going on at the same time, and it means that you have to spend hours in traffic. Some people leave early, get back home late, all of this. So the signs are that you will be physically tired. That is one. Sometimes you might begin to embrace, alcohol or using drugs to just get deep sleep. Other times you might, find yourself sleeping longer, or even longer a lot of times, because you are just on the bed and all you want is just sleep the whole day. So those are, signs. And some people tend to end up, eating too much or eating less.
Oh, I see.
Which can be very...
So it can affect the pattern of how you eat.
Yes.
Or maybe even sleep.
Exactly.
Or maybe remember anything.
Exactly. Forgetfulness. And so many signs. But it's also individual. You have to... For some people, stress disorder, they break out, pimples, and you just realize that they're having a lot of things on their face. Well, it could be stress related sometimes.
All right. Now, as it is in the city like Lagos, or maybe even in Nigeria, the scenario you painted, where you wake up very early, you have to sometimes drive hours to get to the office, and then you get to the office, there's so much work to be done, and then from the office you have to meet up with other appointments here and there, and after the day's job you have to drive again in traffic back home, and then you have to wake up the next day, and so on. That's a typical life in Lagos. Yes. So most people have that lifestyle.
Yes.
So what should anybody do in a situation like that?
So if your routine is in that manner, you have to understand that this is my routine, especially when your job is tied to money making, because survival is important. You have to pay the bills. Yeah. But be that as it may, you have to also begin to create times where you have to rest, where there are people who Mondays to Friday they are busy at work, then Saturday, Sunday they are grooving somewhere. There's always one social gathering. Now such people might need to weigh their options. Do I really want to go out this weekend? Is it necessary? How do I feel? Am I fully charged for next week?
Yeah.
So you need to begin to look at, if your lifestyle is Monday to Sunday, if it's job related, then you may need to find time to rest. Maybe your usual 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. Let that be constant. If you have more time, maybe weekends you don't have to work, why not engage in regular exercise? Go for a massage if you need to. If you can afford it.
That's amazing.
If you can afford it, I think it's therapeutic, and then it really puts you in the right.
Spending time with friends and people whom you love, how does that help in the state of mental health?
So it could work, for good and for, if you have, like you said, emotionally intelligent relatives who can understand, decipher when you're down, who can have productive conversations with you on almost everything. Oh, your relationship, how are you faring? How that guy, what did he say? What did he do? Oh, you yelled at him the other day. I think you didn't, respond well. It's because you're stressed. How about you texting him? Those proper conversations can, help you become a better person and have a better mental health. But on the other side, if you have someone toxic, of relatives that are toxic, who don't, help you in any way, they stress you emotionally, physically, then you have to begin to look for ways to not engage with them. because they are not helping you. So, and for many people, I think that's their situation, having a lot of toxic people around them who are not emotionally intelligent, and they aren't willing to, become emotionally intelligent, because they assume, this is you now. I know you. I've known you since you were a young boy. They don't understand. There are times you just don't feel like having such conversations. So we need more people who are emotionally intelligent. But I believe that if you have the right people who have, a thorough understanding of you as a person and your challenges, then it's better for your mental health.
Because I remember growing up. In fact, I believe that's the situation way back decades ago, where we all live in a communal setting where, extended family, there's no difference between your own brother or your cousin or your nephew, and all of that, and everyone is just, in that setting together. It helps, balance some of these things. But we're now in the metropolitan city where everyone is so upbeat and everyone is so individualistic. Everybody's just to himself because want to mind your business, and so on. When it comes to the use of medicine or drugs and all of that, is it recommended that there are instances where you're so stressed out and there are some medicines you have to take to calm yourself down and things like that?
Yes, I know medically there are, drugs that you can use, but the truth is many people are beginning to abuse all of these drugs because
sometimes at first, the first one you're taking, it works, and then the second one you feel is not working enough, and then
you increase the
dosage on your own.
Yeah. So people are abusing, the use of drugs, and because it's always easy to make it a pattern of, especially when you're stressed, and the next thing is can I have that? Just give me, let me take 2 of it this time, or 3 doses, and boom, you find yourself sleeping hours. So your system begins to depend on that. And some people, it's just give me that bottle of, let me just, let me take a shot of, let me take, and it begins, when you do that regularly, you realize that, oh yes, it's helping you get what you want. But in the long run, your health is going to be affected. So people are beginning to depend on drugs and overuse it just so they can get what they want, especially when it comes to sleep. People are beginning to abuse drugs.
Talk to us about the issue of food. Like they say, sometimes you are what you eat. How does good nutrition help your mental health?
Okay, so I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm going to use a layman's approach to this conversation. If you eat heavy, you can tell how your body is going to react almost immediately. Okay. You either feel tired or feel heavy. And now imagine you doing that 2-3 times a day. You may not be productive as much as you want. And in addition to you gaining weight, which may not be good for you
in the long run.
And when you become obese or overweight, it's going to affect your breathing. It's going to affect your ability to move around swiftly. So that in the long run is still going to, and when you feel obese, definitely you have toxic people around you that are going to talk down on you. Look at you, look at your stomach, you're this, you're that. They're going to mock you, and that would affect your self-esteem. And when you are having low self-esteem in a climate where people don't even care, you begin to feel like, I'm not loved. All I get is people stigmatizing me for my size, and knowing fully well that you initiated this journey from not paying attention to what you eat. So this could lead to internal illness and a whole lot of other stuff. So what you eat is just telling you that eat right, exercise if you have to. As a fitness enthusiast, I encourage those moments of walking, taking a run, maybe 30-20 minutes, if you can, just to, sometimes all you need is just that walk or run to balance whatever you're going through.
You mentioned stigmatization, and I see too that this is an area that you are very passionate about, stigma eradication. Now, how dangerous is stigmatization to someone who is having a mental stress?
In fact, stigmatization is like the bane of many of the issues we're having. People who you expect to have self-confidence don't have self-confidence, and that's because we have more critics. Once you fail at something, they don't want to judge you for failing because they have high expectations of you as a person. But in truth, nobody's understanding where you're coming from, how it was for you as a child. Was it traumatic? Did you have people express love to you easily? Did you have people encourage you? The other day I was at an event, and it was on self-awareness and self-development. Now, the conversation was smooth and engaging. But the truth is, there are so many people who, don't even know who they are. They've been through a lot from childhood, and all because people never learned how to say the right things to people, from school to the home to the religious organizations. It's all nobody lack of emotional intelligence. I put it that way. People utter statements that are not very encouraging. You fail, and the next thing, you are a failure. You are not smart, you are dumb. You can imagine making a presentation, 10 slides, and at the end of it, nobody's applauding you. Just one error, and you're hearing, you're just a failure. How could you have done that? Nobody's considering the time you put in. No, so for many people, it all stems from, childhood. And we need to begin to address, how we say things and how we, even in the workplace.
Is it possible to eradicate stigmatization, for instance?
It might not be, totally, we might not, achieve total eradication, but when we begin to have proper conversations around what to say, how to say it, what is expected of, sometimes you don't necessarily have to say anything. That's the truth. Well, people always want to comment because they feel, if I don't say anything, I'll feel less of me. So they rather attack the person, the individual personality, and that's really sad, because when you say such things, you leave me, you don't know how I deal with that. You have uttered your, disgusting statement, and you're gone. But I have to deal with the fact that you embarrassed me in front of a multitude, and then the multitude will leave and continue to have that perception of me. So many times,
there are far-reaching implications.
Yes. So if we begin to see that when you say these things or behave in this manner, negative manner, these are the effects it will have on the individual, especially not just the moment. It could linger for years. And you probably, someone who is old that eventually would pass on would have said, and that's what people are living with. My grandmother said this, my granddad said this, my mom said this when I was 7, my teacher said this, my uncle did this. And that's what people are living with. If you engage individuals, you realize that either they've been abused as a child, or they never enjoyed love, or no one ever listened to them. So if we begin to have interest in individuals the way we should, we'll begin to understand where their problems stem from. Because as an adult, what we see is the final, is an adult. So some people are power drunk because they were raised, they suffered, a free platform to express themselves. So when they find the chance to lead, they abuse it. And you need to understand where such a person is coming from. And if you end up becoming a leader in the office or a manager, you realize that they don't have good management skills, because growing up,
they can be high-handed sometimes.
Growing up, they had such experiences. So we need to begin to...
So in that case, from what you're saying, it means a lot of people need counseling. A lot of us need counseling.
Yes,
because some of the things we do and we feel, it's normal. It may not be normal to someone else, especially when you're doing it in relationship to another person.
Yes.
Wow. So in that kind of counseling, if we all have to go for counseling, I wonder how long the queue is going to be if we all have to queue up for counseling.
Well, what that tells us is we need more professionals in that industry that we can easily access. Phone calls, we don't necessarily have to meet in person, virtual. But the important thing is, first, we need to admit that some of us have had traumatic, upbringing. Some of us we're still going to struggle with the fact that we didn't have our parents or fathers around. Some are not going to have it easy because they didn't have sisters. It's going to, so if we ever want to get to having everyone, everyone perform at their optimal level, we need to begin to assess each person and understand where they are coming from.
All right. So counseling, exercise, eat right, sometimes take some rest, go to the movies as well, listen to music.
Music is like therapeutic.
It's okay. Shehu Dosumu, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks
for all of the tips that you've given out as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.